Picture this, it's late 2009 and your boss excitedly announces that next week's team meeting will be held in a virtual world. Not just any virtual world, a Second Life, the infamous online realm known for awkward avatars and the occasional shower of lightning genitalia. Yes, that really happens. The idea is to teleport your seat and tie workforce into cartoon bodies and have them discuss Q4 sales projections while sitting in a digital conference room. Sounds like a recipe for hilarity, right? Well, back in 2009, Linden Lab, the company behind Second Life, actually bet on this vision with a straight face. They launched Second Life Enterprise, a bold and pricey attempt to bring their quick virtual world into the bottom-up corporate boardroom. Second Life Enterprise was supposed to be the future of work. No more boring phone calls or glitchy video conferences, instead we'd all meet as avatars in a 3D office paradise. In theory, it promised the holy grail of remote collaboration, the presence and serendipity of real life, minus the travel cost and bad coffee. In practice, let's just say it didn't end well. Pull up a virtual chair and a pixelated donuts, and let's take a look at the darkly comic saga of how Second Life tried to conquer the enterprise world. You're on Product Chronicles, like, subscribe, comments, and we're beginning. To understand why Linden Lab even ventured down this path, we need the context. By 2009, Second Life's initial hype had simmered down. A few years earlier, it was the darling of tech media, a place where Reuters had a news bureau and brands opened virtual stores. The virtual utopia had turned into a bizarre landscape of abandoned malls selling pixelated genitalia. Yep, really. Enter Mark Kinden, Linden Lab's then CEO, who was determined to find a new growth avenue. Kinden looked at the loyal niche of businesses and educators quietly using Second Life and saw an opportunity. Enterprise is a really important growth vector for us, he said, arguing that Second Life could be a compelling platform for learning and collaboration, especially for large enterprises that are distributed around the world. Travel budgets were being slashed in the recessions, companies were touting telecommunication and green initiatives, a perfect time to pitch a virtual meeting room. So in mid-2008, Linden Lab formed a dedicated enterprise division, about 25 people in engineering, product and marketing, tasked with adapting Second Life for corporate use. They gave the project the codename Nebraska for reasons unknown, maybe because it would be as calm and contained as the Great Plains. IBM was an early collaborator and true believer. In fact, IBM had already been messing around in Second Life's public grid, holding virtual conferences and claiming significant savings. IBM said a single large Second Life conference saved them $320,000 in travel and productivity costs. IBM even assigned dozens of developers to build virtual world tools. They clearly saw potential. Why did Linden Lab think enterprises would bite? Well, beyond cost savings and convenience, they genuinely believed in the power of immersive 3D. Second Life's speech was that virtual worlds are the best alternative to face-to-face interaction. There was also a bit of new shiny object syndrome. Around that time, terms like Enterprise 2.0 were buzzing and companies were experimenting with everything from wikis to weird collaboration tools. Remember Google Wave? Linden Lab certainly did, citing it as an up-and-coming collaboration tool. The Naval and the Sea Warfare Center, for one, was keen to use Second Life for training simulations. They even helped ensure the platform met military-grade information assurance standards out of the box. When you have the Navy saying your virtual world could make sense for combat training, you might think you are onto something big. Linden Lab wasn't just selling a new use case, they built a whole new product variant. A Second Life Enterprise was essentially a private behind-the-firewall version of Second Life. How do you sell a virtual world to a bank or government agency concerned about security and, let's be honest, decorum? You give them their own little slice of the metaverse, completely cut off from the public one. No more wandering in to find a lonely middle-aged man pretending to be teenage girls or anthropomorphic foxes looking for a good time, and certainly no prankster unleashing a rain of flying penises on your quarterly all-hands. SLE ran entirely on the company's own network with no connection to Second Life's main service or the unwashed masses of the public world. It was a walled garden, actually more like a walled corporate campus. The thinking was that companies would trust the system if they controlled it. So what did Second Life Enterprise actually include? For starters, it wasn't just software, it came as a literal server appliance. Linden Lab would ship you a configured server box, hardware and software for your very own in-house virtual world. The price tag, a cool 55,000 for the initial package. Yep, you read that right, 55 grand in 2009 money, basically for a sandbox video game on a server. If your CFO hasn't faded yet, they would when they learned that was just the starting price. Linden Lab officially launched Second Life Enterprise in open beta in November 2009 at the Enterprise 2.0 conference. The announcement landed with both fanfare and a fair bit of side-eye from the tech community. On one hand, some media and analysts were optimistic. They saw this as Second Life Second Coming in a more practical avatar. Publications highlighted that 2009 was a big year for virtual collaboration generally. The same year Microsoft was moving Office to the cloud and startups were touting all sorts of collaboration tools. And early adopter customers gave positive quotes. Over 1,400 organizations were already using regular Second Life for some form of work or education by then, Linden Lab pointed out, implying a built-in market ready to convert to private worlds. However, and this is a big however, the tech press and blogosphere also served up a heavy dose of sarcasm and skepticism. Spoiler alert, Second Life Enterprise didn't become the next Zoom or Slack. In fact, it barely lasted beyond its beta. By mid-2010, less than a year from launch, Linden Lab had killed the project. The plug was pulled so fast that many potential customers never got beyond kicking the tires, and those who paid for that 55k box were left in an awkward lurch. So what went wrong? First, a lack of market traction, narrow niche, high cost. Ultimately, SLE appealed to a very thin slice of markets. Only large enterprises or government agencies with particular training or simulation needs found value, and even among them, not all were willing to pony up 55k plus the efforts of implementation. Then user adoption and experience woes. Like we discussed, getting employees to consistently use a 3D world for routine work was a huge task. It's telling that even among the early adopters, usage often remained limited to special events or specific training. It didn't become an everyday platform. Second Life's learning curve and hardware demands. You need a decent PC with a good GPU to run it smoothly were barriers. Next, cultural and brand mismatch. Another factor, the Second Life brand. Linden Lab chose to keep the name Second Life on the enterprise product. This gave them credibility in terms of a known technology, but it also brought along all the baggage. Imagine being an IT manager pitching this to your executive team. So, we want to buy Second Life for our company. You'd immediately get questions like, wait, that thing where people pretend to be vampires and get married online, isn't it a game? Fourth, internal turmoil and strategy whiplash. This might be the biggest reason. In June 2010, Linden Lab went through a major shakeup. They laid off 30% of their staff in a strategic restructuring. Mark Kingdon, the CEO who championed Second Life Enterprise, was pushed out that same month. In that purge, guess which team was axed almost entirely? Yep, the Enterprise division was shuttered. For existing beta customers, this was a shock and a betrayal. Linden Lab quietly told them in mid-2010 that there would be no further updates to the SLE software. Finally, timing and tech limitations. It's easy to say in hindsight, but maybe SLE was just too early or the wrong implementation at the wrong time. The grand vision of the Metaverse for work would resurface a decade later. Hello 2020's Metaverse hype, but in 2010, it was too early. In the annals of product history, Second Life Enterprise stands as a fascinating failure. It was ambitious, innovative, and in some ways visionary, but also misguided, poorly timed, and ultimately unsupported when it mattered. Linden Lab tried to spin a gaming platform into a serious enterprise tool with a dash of humor. The result was a short-lived experiment that gave us great anecdotes. I mean, 55 grand's virtual boardroom with virtual pantsuits, it's a pitch for the ages, and taught us a few hard truths about understanding your user and market. Thanks for watching, like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.